Gluconeogenesis, a doctor in Mexico said, can become insulin resistance by cutting carbs. That's peripheral resistance. That's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing. It's a protective mechanism so you don't break down your muscles. If you don't have enough glucose, you have to actually create peripheral resistance so you can provide the glucose just for the brain, the red blood cells, and a few other parts of the body that require a bit of glucose. That's why. It's a protective mechanism. It's not insulin resistance. It's actually basically peripheral resistance at the cell level where basically lipolysis is taking all the free fatty acids in the fats and using them for energy. There's no resistance. True insulin resistance is when at the cell level is when the actual cell takes no energy in because of the Randall cycle activation. Peripheral resistance is a glucose sparing system. It spares glucose for the brain, for the red blood cells and other things. That's what it does. The guy doesn't understand what he's talking about. And then glucose neogenesis is basically demand driven. The body will actually provide as much as the body requires. So I think he needs to go back and read some physiology books because he doesn't bloody understand basic physiology. If that was the case, people who are fasting would die. You know, So it's ridiculous. If you get the nutrients in and you've got the energy in and the nutrients in, the cofactors and all that, your function, that guy that actually lost 386 kilos, that Scottish guy that was 386 kilos, what am I saying? 386 days, which he was morbidly obese and actually trying to remember his weight. Can't remember his weight anyway, and came down. He basically only needed those the electrolytes and the cofactors primarily. He didn't lose any muscle. The body was just using all his fat as energy and creating glucose as well from glycerol. So the guy is actually, there's photos of him. He looks slim, trim, and muscular. It's ridiculous. It's only when you spike insulin, when you're a vagoon and you're eating a low-fat diet, that you can, if you're not getting enough sugar in, you can catabolize your muscles. It happens to all vegans. They all know it. Everybody's done the vegan diet has had that experience. So that's why when Walter Kempner did the low-fat diet years ago, back in the 1930s, he used to whip his patients to make sure that they ate enough sugar so they wouldn't catabolize their muscles. So, I mean, this guy doesn't even understand basic physiology that goes all the way back to the 1930s and 20s. God almighty. No, he's stupid. He's a moron, like many of the other ones out there that only allopathics that only understand basic things and forget it because they just pass the exam and then they move on, and then the only thing they really get trained in is drugs and surgical techniques. They can't remember most of the other stuff. And I know some doctors that are in my family, and they go, "Oh, I must have done that in physiology, but I can't remember. It was years ago." Because that's not what they specialize as physiologists. But they still have to do it, but they all forget it. They learn it by rope, memorize it, do the exam, and then pretty much move on to the things that they use for their jobs, which is basically pharmacology and surgical techniques.